Hi, this is Sarah Herkes, and this is Home Cooked and We Like It, how to prioritize health and taste in your everyday meals. Today we're going to be talking about how to go home cooked in a busy modern lifestyle. I personally have a full-time job, half-time job, and a full-time student, but yet I managed to do it. I used to frequent all of these fast food places or eat these processed foods like Kraft macaroni and cheese and Wonder Bread. But I found that it was really affecting my health and lifestyle, and that something needed to change. I really needed to start prioritizing my eating. Another catalyst for me realizing that this change needed to happen was Michael Pollan and his book, The Omnivore's Dilemma. It really changed my outlook on diet and how it affects our lifestyles and our environment, and how it really is worth prioritizing it. So how do you do this? How do you prioritize your food and make sure that you do go home cooked? Well, planning ahead is a really big part of it. And part of planning ahead is stocking your pantry, becoming friends with your cookbooks, and building up your arsenal in your kitchen. Stocked pantry, definitely a must. This is going to take time. And it really is going to take some work on your part to figure out what you actually need to stock based on what you like to eat. And it's really important to buy things in bulk when they're on sale to save money. Do that with meat, do that with your grains, and figure out a place to keep them. So for example, my herbs and spices. You also need to learn how long you can actually keep things and they'll still be good. This is all going to take experience and time to figure out. And just figuring out what spices you even need is part of the battle. So start figuring out if you want to cook Italian or Mexican. You also need to stock the basics. For me, the basics are oil, vinegar, butter, pepper, and salt. But the basics might be a little bit different for you. You'll notice that these aren't in the original packages, and that's because I do buy all of this stuff in bulk as well to save money. Becoming friends with cookbooks. Now, this cookbook collection did take a little bit of time to create, to compile, to bring together, and it really took some research on my part to figure out which ones would work well for me. But I'm really happy now that I have this arsenal of books. My favorite book is How to Boil Water. This was one of the first books I ever bought, and it taught me all of the basics of how to cook. It has great recipes, and it really shows you the basics of just technique, which is really half the battle of learning how to cook. I didn't always know how to cook. It was something I learned over time. Food blogs are another great source for recipes. I personally use The Kitchen, Simple Bites, My Baking Addiction, and I compile all of this on Pinterest. Pinterest also allows me to follow websites and Pinterest boards that I wouldn't normally follow, therefore expanding what I do follow for recipes. Building up your arsenal, making sure that you have the equipment you need to actually cook at home. This again also takes time and takes some strategy. Go to thrift stores, go to places where you can get these things for really cheap, or inherit it from somebody who's trying to get rid of it, like I did. Another way to really make this time efficient when you are cooking at home is to really be strategic and plan ahead with what you plan to cook with. Kaniwa, quinoa, and couscous are all quick cooking oats, and that really helps cut down the time you spend home cooking. Another thing is you really want to go through those cookbooks and actually start compiling some basic recipes you're always going to use. These are some of the ones that I frequently call upon when I'm trying to come up with dinner plans or even lunch plans. And these are ones that I almost always have the ingredients for because I planned my pantry accordingly. Again, going back to those cookbooks, this is really a basic area that you need to start building up to be able to be a good home cook. You can't just come up with recipes just out of thin air. You do have to have some reference material to go to. And so really just start looking at some cookbooks, even if it's just a used bookstore. So breaded pork chops are something that I made for breakfast this morning. Yes, I said breakfast. And that's because going with the flow is part of being a home cook. I had defrosted these for dinner last night. That didn't work out, so I made them for breakfast this morning. It all works. The sides. So when you're coming up with a meal, you have to come up with more than just the entree. And I say use what's in your refrigerator. I happen to have some apples. We were having it for breakfast, so I made it with some waffles. But any veggies or potatoes or anything will work. Figure out your main entree and then just add on sides based on what's in your refrigerator. Now I breaded these pork chops. Flours, eggs, and breadcrumbs are something I routinely keep in my kitchen and my pantry because it's something that I personally do quite a bit. And, just keeping these basics around really means that coming up with a meal last minute isn't that difficult. Here are my wonderful pork chops in a cast iron skillet. Did I know how to cook with a cast iron prior to this? Not really. Had I really breaded pork chops before a few years ago? Not really. I figured it out. I learned. I made it a priority, and therefore we get to eat fabulous meals like this. Here's my final product. Breaded pork chops with waffles and an apple compote. One day I actually made pork chops and found that apple compotes go really well together with pork chops, and I've kind of just gone with it ever since. Waffles? Why not? I love waffles. I have a waffle maker. It all works. So just remember that you want to stock your pantry, flag good recipes that you like, read your cookbooks and blogs, stock your arsenal, and you'll like home cooking just as much as I do. They taste better than that fast food junk, and they're better for you. Definitely worth prioritizing.